Hi, I'm David. Today, I'm going to share some tips on how to memorize words more easily and effectively. Learning new words is an essential part of learning any language. Words are the building blocks of communication. The more words you know, the easier it becomes to understand others and express yourself. However, sometimes memorizing words can be tough. Have you ever learned a new word but found it slipping away the very next day? Don't worry, you're not alone. Many beginners face this challenge, but there are ways to make learning new words easier and more fun. Why does learning new words feel difficult? One reason is that our brains are naturally better at remembering things that grab our attention or evoke strong emotions. If a word doesn't seem interesting or useful, we might forget it quickly. But here's the good news. By making words more meaningful and fun to learn, you can start to remember them better. For example, when you hear the word apple, you probably think of a shiny red fruit. You might even imagine the taste as you take a bite. That mental image makes the word easier to remember. Now think about a new word you've recently learned. Did you try to connect it to something familiar or interesting? When you feel a connection to a word, it becomes easier to remember. Emotions and interest play a huge role in building your vocabulary. It's important to understand that your brain needs a reason to remember a word. The more personal and interesting you make the learning process, the stronger that connection will become. If you can create an emotional connection to the word or visualize it in a fun or engaging way, your brain is more likely to retain it. So, let's talk about how you can make learning new words an enjoyable and memorable experience. The power of interest in learning. When you're genuinely interested in a word or find it useful, your brain works harder to remember it. For instance, if you love cooking, you might find it easier to remember words like recipe, spices, or ingredients. Use this technique with any word you want to learn. Ask yourself, how can I make this word interesting to me? Maybe you can imagine a story involving the word, or think about how you might use it in a conversation. Another way to tap into your interests is by learning words that directly relate to your passions or daily life. For example, if you're into technology, learn words related to gadgets, software, or the digital world. If you enjoy sports, focus on words connected to your favorite games, athletes, and events. The more a word resonates with something important to you, the easier it becomes to remember. Remember, building your vocabulary is like planting seeds. The more attention and care you give each word, the stronger and clearer it will grow in your mind. And don't forget, every time you learn a new word, you're not just expanding your vocabulary, you're opening new doors to understanding the world around you. Here's a quote from Dr. Seuss. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. This reminds us that learning new words isn't just about memorizing. It's about unlocking new opportunities. Every new word takes you to a new place, helping you understand more and communicate better. Getting started. Start with words that feel important to you. Begin small and make learning a part of your daily routine. Practice reading, listening, and speaking with new words as often as possible. To help you out, I've uploaded some fun and simple videos on my website to guide you through building your vocabulary. Before we move on, I'd love to hear from you. What's the most recent English word you've learned? Drop it in the comments and let's discuss how you can remember it better. And remember, the journey to mastering new words is different for everyone, but it's always worth it. Chapter 2. Word Visualization. The power of imagination. When it comes to memorizing words, one of the most powerful tools we have is our imagination. Our brains are wired to remember pictures and images much more easily than just words or letters. That's why the visualization technique can be incredibly effective in helping you learn new vocabulary. By creating a mental picture of a word, you make it easier to remember. What is word visualization? Visualization means creating a mental image to represent a word. When you think of a word as a picture, it becomes more than just letters on a page. For example, when I say the word apple, what comes to your mind? You probably imagine a shiny red fruit. Maybe you even picture taking a bite and feeling its crunch. This mental image makes the word stick because it's tied to a real object or experience. This technique works because our brains are highly visual and respond to images much more readily than to abstract concepts. By associating a word with a vivid image, you create a stronger memory. And the best part? You can practice this with any word, no matter how simple or complex. How to use visualization to remember new words. Let's say you're learning the word mountain. Instead of just repeating the word, try to close your eyes and imagine a tall, snow-covered peak. Picture yourself standing at the bottom, looking up at the massive mountain in front of you. Maybe you see clouds touching the top or hear the wind blowing through the trees. By connecting the word mountain to a vivid mental image, you're more likely to remember it. The more detailed and personal the image, the stronger the connection to the word. You can even imagine yourself experiencing the word. For example, when learning run, you might visualize yourself jogging through a park, feeling the wind on your face and hearing your feet hitting the ground. Visualization doesn't have to be complex. Even a simple picture in your mind can help. For example, if you're learning the word happy, you might imagine a smiling face or a moment when you felt truly joyful. The more personal and vivid the image, the better it will work. Connecting words to mental images. The trick is to create mental images that stand out. The more unique or emotional the picture, the easier it will be to remember the word. For example, if you're learning the word ocean, picture not just any body of water, but a giant wave crashing onto the shore. Maybe you imagine swimming in the cool water or standing on the beach, listening to the sound of the waves. Our brains are great at remembering images and emotions. When we link a word to a mental image, it becomes more meaningful, and our memory holds onto it better. Visualization taps into the creative part of our minds, making learning feel more like an experience and less like a task. A famous Chinese proverb says, "To learn a language is to have one more window from which to look at the world." This quote reminds us that learning new words isn't just about memorizing. It's about opening up new ways to see and understand the world. And by visualizing those words, you create windows into the meaning behind them. Getting started with visualization. Next time you learn a new word, take a moment to create a mental picture for it. You can even draw the word and sketch a simple picture beside it to help. The more you practice, the easier it will become to link words to images automatically. Visualization doesn't just make learning more fun, it also helps words stick in your memory. I encourage you to try this technique and let your imagination run wild. It's a fun and creative way to make new words stick. I'd love to hear from you. How do you picture words in your mind? Do you imagine scenes, objects, or something else? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Chapter 3. Word Connections, Linking Old and New. One of the best ways to remember new words is by connecting them to words you already know. Our brains love patterns and connections. When you link a new word to something familiar, it becomes easier to understand and remember. This technique is called word association, and it's a powerful tool for learning new vocabulary. How does word association work? Think of it like building a bridge between a new word and a word you already know. By creating a connection, you make it easier to cross from the familiar to the unfamiliar. For example, let's say you already know the word beauty. Now you're learning the word beautiful. These words are connected because they come from the same root, and they belong to the same word family. A word family is a group of words that share a common base, like beauty, beautiful, and beautify. By connecting related words, you create a network in your mind, making it easier to recall them later. This is a great way to expand your vocabulary without feeling overwhelmed. Why are word families important? Learning words in families can save you time and effort. Instead of memorizing each word separately, you can learn several related words at once. This not only builds a richer vocabulary, but also helps you understand how words work together in the language. For example, the word act can lead you to words like action, active, and activity. Once you know one word in the family, learning the others becomes easier because they share the same root. This method allows you to expand your vocabulary naturally and efficiently. Practical ways to use word connections. You can make word connections synonyms, words that mean the same thing. For example, connect happy with joyful. Antonyms, words that mean the opposite. For example, connect happy with sad. Prefixes and suffixes. A prefix is a part added to the beginning of a word, and a suffix is added to the end. For example, if you know the word happy, you can easily understand unhappy by adding the prefix un. Learning prefixes and suffixes allows you to unlock the meanings of many different words. By building these connections, you can make learning new vocabulary a smoother, more enjoyable process. You'll also begin to notice patterns in language, which will help you understand and use new words more easily. Getting started with word connections. To help you practice, I've uploaded videos on my website that guide you through word families, prefixes, and suffixes. These videos will help you connect new words to ones you already know. The more you practice, the faster you'll start recognizing these connections on your own. I'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite word, family? Do you love words related to travel, food, or hobbies? Share your thoughts in the comments. Chapter 4. Using words in real life. Practice makes permanent. You've probably heard the saying, practice makes perfect. But when it comes to learning English, it's better to say, practice makes permanent. The more you use new words in real-life situations, the more naturally they'll become part of your vocabulary. Memorizing words is just the beginning. The real work comes from using them. Why is using new words so important? Think of it this way. If you learn a new word but never use it, it's like planting a seed but never watering it. The word will wither in your memory and eventually disappear. However, when you use the word in sentences, conversations, or writing, it's like giving that seed water and sunlight. It grows stronger in your mind. Using new words in real-life situations helps your brain connect the word to a context, making it easier to recall the next time you need it. If you only see a word on a page without understanding how to use it in a sentence, you won't be able to use it effectively in conversation. The key to mastering new vocabulary is applying it to real-life situations. Practical ways to use new words. Reading. Reading books, articles, or watching movies and shows in English is one of the best ways to encounter new words. By seeing how words are used in context, you can understand their meanings and how they function in a sentence. Speaking out loud. Practice speaking new words aloud, whether with a friend, a language partner, or even by yourself. The key is to speak as much as possible. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn. Journaling. Start a journal where you write about your day or your thoughts in English. Try to use the new words you've learned. Writing helps reinforce vocabulary and allows you to practice using words in different contexts. By integrating new words into your everyday life, you'll strengthen your vocabulary and make them stick for the long term.